Okay, I think we are officially live.
Good stuff.
All right, so you want to start out by let's do your latest single, Jericho. You want to kind of share a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. The latest single, Jericho, is kind of like I don't know, a testament to a lot of different things. But in life, one of the main things for me was coming into my experience in this case was coming into Christian hip hop and kind of observing, a lot of clicks, a lot of different things that were kind of like presented at the forefront initially for me that didn't have anything to do with Christ, and it was kind of off-putting, initially. And the song was kind of built around this idea of like how things can kind of approach us and maybe even push us back or set us off a little bit, but it's our goal
Okay.
to keep walking even in the face of adversity. And when we think about like, Jericho and how they just walked around these walls, not really knowing what was going to happen, but that faithfulness drove them. That's kind of the progression of the song. So coming into a culture that I'm not really familiar with, I'm seeing maybe is not reflective of Christ on the surface, but then getting down to the meat of it and realizing that I'm walking by faith in this whole journey. And I guess overall, I want the song to serve as an encouragement to people, just keep marching forward in faith and know that the wide path is the one that's often chose, but it's also the one that's far from home, So that's kind of like, I guess, the spirit behind it, or the heart behind it rather, for Jericho, was like this idea of like, just perseverance, even in situations where you might not see the God in that situation, but knowing that he's put you there to fulfill a purpose, So that was kind of like the idea behind Jericho for sure.
Okay. Who did the production on that?
It was actually produced by Daniel Steele, who does a
Okay.
lot of work with like Humble Beast. He did some stuff for like Propaganda, Jay Givens, a lot of those cats. But I linked up with him, and the mix was done by my friend Compono. So we kind of just got together and just did some. I think came out really awesome. I was really excited about it and the production and how it came out.
Definitely, it's a hot beat. Definitely.
I appreciate it.
Um, then shortly before that, of course, you had your EP drop, Absolute. With the
Absolutely.
single off of that, you had No Big Deal on there and some good features.
Yeah.
How'd you link up with Indie Tribe?
Yeah, well, The Body was a track. When I was signed with Exist, I was like trying to figure out a way to like orchestrate kind of like a really nice group collabo. And I had done music with No Big Deal and Mowgli before, and also Brother 3, which was another feature, on separate occasions. And we all had a common friend of Loren,
Okay.
who ended up just getting together. So we actually got together in, I want to say like May of this year, or even earlier, maybe like April of this year, and we got the track done within a month. But just due to everything, it ended up getting postponed. A lot of stuff went down, and what was supposed to be originally be a single ended up getting put on the EP. So that was really awesome to see that. But yeah, The Body, I linked up with those guys just off of Twitter. No Big Deal was someone that I had known from way back when. He knew Mowgli. Brother 3 was a friend of mine. From a mutual friend who needed like some work done. I ended up doing some mixes for him, and we linked up. And Lauren, I just met just mutual friends. You meet one person, they introduce you, and then you kind of just build a relationship. So it's been cool. But I love that track, and it worked out really beautifully, I think.
Yeah, me too. And a lot of those cats are kind of newer. You got Lauren,
Yeah.
and but Brother 3. So that was really hard to see, kind of the young talent displayed there.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
It's definitely one of my favorite tracks off there. And Wolves is definitely another one that I really appreciate too.
Yeah, yeah.
I've seen different commentary through different sites about that track. So personally, you want to explain kind of what the vibe on that one was?
Yeah, Wolves was kind of like, there was a reason, for example, I didn't put Jericho on the EP, and I think a lot of it had to do with how it, I guess, shared a lot of similarity with Wolves, but Wolves was originally written during a period of time when there was like a lot of stuff happening with people falling away from the faith. During the period that I wrote it, Isaiah Ziv had actually stepped away from the faith, who was previously known as Kid.
Right.
Another artist named The Kid Jop ended up stepping away from the faith. The stuff came out with this other artist, Jahaziel, who was pretty big in the UK, stepping away from the faith. So I just saw a lot of this stuff happening, and when they came out with their reasons as to why they did that and why they were moving away, not that they were all exactly the same, but a lot of them shared similarities. So like one of the things that Isaiah had expressed was kind of like, he felt he had been taken advantage of, and he felt that people within the church and within, you know, this community of the small community of Christian rap weren't very genuine. And he felt like there was a lot of deception, and like, you know, long story short, he just felt like hurt and betrayed, you know. And I felt that pain, and at the same time I also felt like someone's got to say something about this, and not in a combative way, but to kind of communicate some of this stuff across. And when I had originally written Wolves, it was meant to be more conversational. And then when I linked up with Daniel Steele, who did the production, you know, I was like, can we switch it on the second part of that track and make it more aggressive and kind of bring up the tone of it? And that wasn't more so, again, just to increase combativeness or to like put people on edge, but to just talk about this stuff in a real serious way. Like, we have people who are in this particular, you know, genre essentially to get influence, get fans, get fame, however little that might be, and manipulate that outside of just the cause of serving Christ, you know. So it was kind of crazy just to, like, again, I guess, witness that, and then, you know, have nobody really speak on it in that kind of way. Like, I heard some people say this and that, but that's where that song kind of came from, and that's what it was really intended to do, was just to start a conversation, but also let people know where I stand. And where I stand is that, like, I'm doing music for Christ. At the end of the day, if I don't get any affluence or any fans or anything like that, you know, that's fine, as long as I'm doing God's work. And, you know, just juxtapose that to the fact that people aren't really like that in every case when you would expect them to be. And obviously that mirrors some of my I guess, thoughts and subject matter on Jericho. So that's why I didn't really put those songs together necessarily, but Wolves was kind of rooted in that, and starting that conversation.
Nice. Now that you mentioned, I can definitely see the correlations between the two tracks.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
I can see that was a good move to separate there, and definitely have a good vibe with both of those. And
Yeah.
Last Supper is another one that a lot of people have different interpretations of what the Last Supper meant to them, especially between different faiths like Catholic faith and Christianity. So what made you incorporate that into the EP?
Yeah, you know, Last Supper was a song that I had originally done. It was produced by my friend Compono. I had originally done that song as to be another, again, like when I write a song, or when I subject matter behind, you know, like there's a conversation that I want to have with it. So Last Supper was kind of like, the first verse was more slower, with me kind of just speaking on specific things, and some of those things can be kind of cryptic, but the idea was like, you have all this stuff happening in the world. You have, you know, people selling drugs, people going out and killing for drugs, people, you know, fornicating, people cheating, people fighting, you know, war, famine, poverty, all this stuff going on, and we're bearing witness to it. But at the end of the day, as a believer, are you engaging with that culture? You know what I mean? Are you engaging with that culture, or being swallowed with that culture? So like, the Last Supper is really this idea of like, who are you going to break bread with in the last days? When it comes down to it, are you going to be breaking bread with the people that need it the most, or are you going to be too timid to do so? And even in the chorus, it talks about like, you know, while I break bread with those who ain't fed, Lord, I'm so scared. And it's depicting these images of like the end times, and then again just bringing it back. In the second verse, and this is where the artwork stemmed from, because each piece has an artwork, and that artwork is Judas with the golden head. The second piece is talking about like, okay, now that you kind of set this tone of what's going on and who you're gonna break bread with, where does that self idolatry come into play? And when I look at like idolatry of self, I think Judas, because of what he did, you know, he essentially sacrificed the Savior for himself, and he made an idol of himself, you know, an idol of himself, that he deserves what he can get out of selling this Savior out, even though he knows he's the Son of God. He knows that he's like salvation, but he's willing to place himself before that. So the second verse is kind of just talking about like the same kind of stuff, like, you're in the world, what's going on? There's a story of just someone who's falling, someone who's going through the motions, and then at the end, of course, that redemption and that acknowledgement that there's only one king, and that's Jesus. And at the end of the day, you know, when the Last Supper is here, we're in the Last Supper right now, who are you breaking bread with? Are you breaking bread with the people that need it, or are you going to be an idol of self and, you know, sacrifice the Savior?
Good stuff, man. Yeah, kind of how I look at that, and kind of what you see going on, and it's kind of disappointing to actually true followers of Christ is you got this movement, I guess you could call it, that people aren't really living out the whole not of this world aspect of the word. I mean, they're calling themselves Christian. They're not really walking their faith. And then they're basically, with the media influences these days between pop culture, news, music, of course, they're kind of just going with the flow, going with what's popular instead of what they're called to do. So I thought a lot of that in that track too.
Yeah, and you know, like when you kind of look at like the way it's laid out, and you know how the track list is laid out, like the track list kind of starts with, you know, absolutes, you know, what's right or wrong, pretty much leads into the Last Supper, talking about the state of you know, humanity and the state of the individual in this particular humanity, then leading into Wolves, discussing how that aspect of the world has gotten into Christian hip hop. And then of course the rest of the tracks kind of tell that story, but it's kind of like this story of like, this is what's going on and we need to define a line in the sand. Like at the end of the day, like you're either a follower of Christ or you're not, you know, don't be lukewarm, don't sit on the fence. You're either hot or cold, you know what I mean? And that's what it really comes down to. And even if you're warm, really you're cold, you know?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, you know, it's one of those things. And at the same time, like, I'm not someone who's saying like, if you're going through a process of discovery or you're wrestling with God on some things, that you're lukewarm and you need to stop or get out or whatever the case is. I get it, you know, but I think there's people willfully and completely soberly choosing to live a life that is contradictory to what God tells us to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's good stuff. And kind of bridging off of that, well, let me take a step back, as you did mention it. Something I thought was real dope was, like you mentioned, the artwork between track to track. You don't see that a lot, and that takes that extra piece to the puzzle when you're putting that project together. Who did the artwork, and where was that kind of inspired from?
Yeah, I actually did all the artwork myself, and the artwork was kind of inspired on, like, you know, when I thought about absolutes, I'm thinking, you know, again, like the absolutes between right and wrong, truth and not truth. You know, what is absolute truth? Kind of wrestling with this idea. And the original concept came to mind. I was like, you know, I think we oftentimes take what we know is not to be, or what we know not to be absolute truth, and we create an idol out of it. So each song has a artwork that I would associate with what we create that idol to be, or what the thesis of that song is. Okay. So like, you know, on the first track, Absolutes, the golden calf, you know, the golden calf could represent a lot of things, but ultimately represents a false god, you know. Last Supper, you know, Judas, the idol of self. On the third joint, you know, Wolves, just that idol of the golden wolf mounted on the wall, kind of like a prized possession, which could be ego, which could be, you know, your affluence, your influence, your fame, you know, that kind of stuff. And then so on as it progresses, it's just kind of like the thesis of each song is kind of painted around the object which is made of gold, and that, you know, in turn is the idol which people are engaged in worship for that song, or at least what we're discussing, you know.
Very nice. And one of the things I just had a conversation about, actually I just spoke to KJ about it, was right now you got such a mass availability of music. I mean, through streaming, through digital. When you go back 10 years ago, when you just had the CD, or you just had, even going back a little further than that, you had the cassette. So basically it was based on, you distance yourself from that because you lose your senses. You don't really have a feel of the product you're holding. You don't really get that communication with it. So that kind of came to mind when I saw that you did the artwork for the track, because it kind of brings back that personal touch to music, and I thought that was real dope.
I appreciate that, man. And you know, it's like exactly how you're saying. It's a challenge to navigate, kind of like creating really dope, God glorifying art that is going to be relevant on all levels, like from the mixing, from the production, to the lyric choices, to the artwork, even to the way it's printed or the way it's distributed. It's really tough to kind of, again, as you're saying, combat it. But I think it's, you know, we do a disservice when we just say, like, you know what, this is the standard. I'm just going to give into the standard because that's what everyone's doing. Now, ultimately, like, if the standard is what you're called to, like, follow, if, like, this particular trend or this particular method of distribution makes sense for what you're doing, I'm not going to knock that. But I know on my heart is a desire to, like, present what I'm discussing in every aspect as much as I possibly can, you know. And even with some of the music videos that I plan on doing, you know, there's no music videos I've done for any of this music yet, because I'm still wrestling with how I'm going to portray this the most effectively, you know, the most professionally, and obviously
Gotcha.
with a budget in mind that I, you know, have to be mindful of the
Yeah.
budget. But like, that's the process, you know. And it's
Yeah.
very easy to give into this like stream culture where it's like, it's only on the web, it's only digital, I'm just going to put it out and not really care about that. But yeah, man, I mean, it's always fulfilling, I think, for the listener as well, because, you know, when somebody gets something that a lot of effort was put into, it really stays with them versus something that might just be, you know, in and out of their life. I think people really value music. So I'm hoping and I'm praying that the efforts that I put into it, God will use that to bless people even more abundantly in some kind of way.
Gotcha. That's nice. One of the things that drew me to your music and got this relationship going is you're kind of bridged away or stepped away from the standard in CHH anymore, with the whole trap music kind of being, it's got to be dope, it's got to be danceable, it's got to be something that you can vibe to. Where in a lot of I kind of connect a lot of it to with the recording label of Lamp Mode. Lamp Mode is one of the ones I grew up on.
Yeah.
And back to the old Tim Brindle and Shaolin stuff, where it's just basically theology, which, I mean, you got to have the meat along with the milk. So
yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, that's what kind of caught my eye or my ear with you is, you stand apart, you're different. Just kind of those cats over there. Jason's doing some amazing things still with Lamp Mode. So
yeah.
You want to just talk briefly about that for a minute? How it's kind of had that industry norm to be with the whole got to be dope to dance to and trap music, to where you have the lyrics that you're actually more theological or more scriptural based, providing for fans.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and again, it's one of those things where, you know, I can't speak to everybody. I can only speak for myself. I know that the music I grew up on was always very challenging and thought-provoking. And there are times when I think the music, you know, you could dance to, or the music that you can kind of like, I don't know, like get turned, if that's the right term. Right. But like music that is more exciting, or not even exciting, that's such a bad word, but music that's more, you know, very high energy, or I guess trendy would be a good word.
Trendy or popular, yeah.
Yeah, like more trendy and popular music, I don't think is always the most thought-provoking, even though there is a place for it. And, you know, ultimately, I think the music that I'm called to make is music that's going to stand the test of time, in the sense that, like, lyrics and everything that's put into it, it will stand out, but also stand for a longer period of time. And I think, like, when you think of people from Lamp Mode, like SO, you know what I mean? I could pull up an old SO record or old Shaolin record, even at that, and I could listen to it 5, 6, 7 years later, and it still has the same impact. I feel the way, you know, the same way about like Humble Beast, even Lecrae stuff, I feel has that staying power and that staying value. And I think when people get caught up in the trend or the popular music, it might take away from that in the long run. Now, mind you, you could have a profound impact with somebody probably in the short run with that, especially if they're transitioning from what's popular in the mainstream or what is, you know, a trending sound in the mainstream into this genre. So if you're going from, like, you know, hip hop with a lot of cursing, all this kind of stuff, and transitioning into Christian hip hop, it might be a little bit smoother. You know what I mean? If you had that sound that's similar or representative, or that trap sound. But for me, that's just not what I'm called to do, you know, and ultimately I think the music that I do put out, I think is going to touch people and affect people for, man, I pray years to come. So, you know, if God wills it, you know, it's going to move and do what it needs to do. And if he says it's not relevant anymore, that's fine. But I feel the music that we put out should be a representative of, you know, who we serve, and also the quality that he's called us to actually have. So when somebody listens to my stuff, even if they don't like it, I wanted to make that impression of, like, wow, like, this dude is a Christian and he cares about his art to a high degree, so that, you know, in 5, 6, 7 years, the music that I put out now will still have that relevance and that staying power. It won't be something that's like, oh, that sound is like played out. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, which is sometimes the case, you know, so maybe not all the time, but you know, you don't want to point fingers or say something, but, you know, I think some some people might sacrifice that just for that trendy sound, but that's not something I'm called to do. I know
Right. And I mean, just personally as a fan of music and passionate about music, it's something that I've always struggled with, just the availability of music anymore, especially hip hop, since sites that have it readily available free at the consent of the artist. And on
that.
mixtapes, you get, I mean, you're smothered in the art. So to discern from what you want to listen to or which artist you want to kind of continuously have that staying power that you are speaking about, they got to stand out one from another from another. It can't all be the same sound or the same flow. So that's another thing
Exactly.
with Absolute, with everything I've heard of yours from the last couple months, over the last year. It's just something that does stay with you. So I appreciate that. And
I
as a
appreciate
fan
you
and
listening.
as somebody who is constantly exposed to music, so that's real dope.
I appreciate that.
Um,
No, absolutely.
so kind of bridging off that, we kind of brought it up a little bit. Which artist or your musical influences, who do you draw from?
As far as like who I draw from, like right now, within Christian hip hop, there's not really anybody particularly that stands out as far as who I draw from. There's a lot of dope people I listen to. Like I like Jay Givens, I like John Gibbs stuff for sure. I like SO stuff. Gemstones is dope. But I don't really draw a lot of influence from them, and not because I'm any better than them or anything like that, but mostly just because sonically, it's just not like the sound I'm going for. But like a lot of people that stand out to me is like honestly, this might set people back or something, but like secular artists, like I think Kendrick Lamar is really great. A Tribe Called Quest, I think, is really great. There's some artists like Nas, for example, that I think are really great. J. Cole, I think, is really great. And as far as like sonically what I'm doing, I don't think any of my stuff really matches or meshes with that. But when I hear something, I get inspired. There's an artist called Bonobo who's really dope. He just does instrumental music, really great stuff.
Okay.
Emily Wells is really great. She's a singer songwriter. Aloe Black is really great. Just a lot of really awesome musicians. And when I hear their stuff, there's always a desire to like make your own sound. But I just really like the authenticity, the organic feeling of the music, the way that they present the lyrics in a very honest way. I think that's kind of like always the through line, just something that feels very organic, very natural, something that like moves you, like moves like this, you know what I mean? Like your heart, like makes you emotional, gets you goosebumps, you know what I mean? Not
Right.
something that necessarily just gets you riled up, but something that moves you on a much deeper level is really the stuff that I enjoy personally. And that's plenty throughout Christian hip hop, no doubt. No Big Deal. The latest single, Purple Dinosaur, does that for me as well.
That's hot.
Yeah, man, they got some great stuff. So there's a lot to choose from, like you're saying. But for me, those are some of my favorites.
Okay. And you actually kind of led me into my next question.
Okay.
Something I like to ask all artists, especially Christian hip hop, and because it's something I struggle with myself, is you brought up some of the more popular, some of the ones that are vibing real good right now. I mean, you got J. Cole coming out tomorrow. So J. Cole, Kendrick, all those cats. The thing that I struggle with, of course, is the difference that, of course, CHH brings is it removes the vulgarity, removes all the different topics. I mean, they can be real life, but there's a different way to go about that as well. So what I find is the vulgarity, the use of course, the N-word. A lot of that, I feel like the art or the talent behind those artists like Kendrick and J. Cole kind of gets lost. I'm trying to cipher through all that stuff so I can hear truly what their heart is on that topic. So from your point of view, how do you listen to that, especially the type of music you do that is even separate from what a lot of the artists in Christian hip hop do? How can you go through one of their projects, or I guess what you have like an agenda going into it to try to keep relevant, or how do you approach those mainstream artists?
It's kind of a mix of things, but mainly for me, and you can ask, like, for example, my wife, you can ask her this, the people that I'm around, you can ask them this. I usually just season to taste. So, like, if I go into listening, like, a Kendrick Lamar album, like his most recent album, if I go into listening that, I am totally prepared to be like, okay, there's going to be vulgarity. There's going to be topics I don't agree with, but I'm not going to make something that I put on repeat 24 hours a day. Like I can't do that for myself. Like if you look at like some of the music I listen to, it's largely instrumental, but there is that mindful. Because I notice, you know, straight up, I notice that if I listen to a lot of secular music and I listen to it on repeat constantly, I will end up saying that vulgarity, or I will end up falling into a habit of like saying things or doing things that are out of character for me. You know, like if I'm listening to a song that might, you know, use a term like a certain curse term, I'll find myself wanting to say that term when I get frustrated about something. Right. So that happens a lot, and it's not so much like I want to listen to this because I want to stay relevant or like be up to speed with what's going on. Sometimes it is when it's music that I'm not really fond of, but it's more so like I go in with like the mindset of like, I would love to hear how he approaches this on his flow. I would love to hear the lyrics that he's using or the rhyme patterns that he's using. I would love to hear how it's mixed and how like the engineer is putting forth an effort to make things sound different sonically, or how the producer changes up instrumentation, you know? And a lot of that's just to be like, they do this really well, and I want to pull this piece of it into what I'm doing, you know? And yeah, but of course, you always have to be mindful of like, you know, what you're getting yourself into. I look at it very similarly. It's not exactly the same, but I look at it very similarly to like eating out. You know, if you go out to eat at McDonald's 3 times a day, you are going to put on, you know, weight. You're not going to be healthy, you know, might have health problems, right? But if you go out like once a week, or even maybe even twice a week, you know, who knows? That's going to be a little bit different experience, and you can kind of mentally prepare yourself and say, hey, I'm not making this a habit. Maybe I need some food right now, whatever the case is, and I'm just going to, you know, do this right now, but not making it something where it's a habit. On that same note, there's Christian hip hop artists that I listen to on a daily basis that I think I wouldn't even say counter it, but definitely, you know, help me get the taste or whatever the case is of that inspiration, and I'm able to enjoy myself comfortably, you know, and that's coupled with a lot of instrumental music because I listen to a lot of instrumental artists. But you definitely have to be mindful. I would be very concerned if I was going to go perform at a show, or if I was on my way to a show, or if I was getting ready to serve like in any sort of ministry capacity, and somebody was playing music that had a lot of vulgarity in it, you know, that would be concerning for me, or had very heavy subject matter with a lot of like very negative things. Like, you know, listening to a Kendrick Lamar song is one thing, and then listening to like, you know, I don't want to throw any artists under the bus, but like a 2 Chainz song is very different, you know, like the subject matter and like the language and everything to be very different. So I would be just mindful of that for anybody who's going to do it, but that's something that would probably concern me, you know, but I don't know if that answers your question, but you definitely season to taste, you know, if you're going to do something, be very mindful about it and make sure that you're going into it prayerfully versus just being like, I want to listen to this, I want to do this, you know. That's something I've fallen into as well. If it's a temptation, it's something you should be really mindful of too.
Yeah, you know, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I definitely have to prepare my mentality for basically I know what I'm going to hear going into it. I mean, you hear things constantly. You mentioned the artists that are popular, and especially hip hop artists. So I definitely want to see what they're listening to, why they're listening to it. So that's why I would kind of always ask that question. I love to hear the heart behind it, so I appreciate that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Let's see here. I don't know how much online. I know we can definitely discuss it offline, but any kind of teaser you want to give for stuff coming up?
Oh, you know, I don't have any music with me right now. It's getting mixed and stuff, but I'll say this: I do got a project coming up with one producer. Who I could probably reveal, Santosh. He did some stuff with Andy Mineo recently that he dropped. So I'm doing a project with him, a short project. I'm also doing a project with another producer. I've got a lot of things planned for 2017, a lot of music And I'll definitely keep you plugged in and send that over before it drops. But a lot of new music, a lot of cool features coming. I'm very excited for 2017, and now that we're kind of wrapping up this year, I'm looking forward to the new year and what it's going to bring. So a lot of new music, no album yet. The album might come towards the end of 2017, but definitely some new projects, mixtapes, EPs, all that good stuff.
That's the beauty of EPs. You can constantly get the flow of music going year to year. So
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things I'm really excited about is like just trying out different styles, you know what I mean? So I'm gonna try like
okay,
something else on this project, which is 4 songs, on this project, which is 4 songs, and kind of bounce around, just kind of keeping it, keeping it mobile, see how people respond to different things, and just exploring sonically what I can do.
gotcha. That's dope. So just thinking about over the last year or two, the tracks that you've done in the EPs, is there one track or one concept behind the track that kind of sets the tone or defines your style the most? It doesn't have to be your most recent project. It can be anything that you've kind of released.
That's like, I think it's tough for me to answer that because I feel like each of my projects has such a unique sound and like kind of composition. But I would say my favorite track, and I would personally say one of my most defining tracks would either be My Life from Absolutes or AOTV from Absolutes. Those are probably my favorite tracks, and I think the most defining tracks. And the reason being is because like just the production, the style, the flow pattern, I think is really indicative of how I really wanted to make music for a long time. And listening to those songs, like the first time I was listening to Anthem of the Valley or AOTV when I had got the mix back, I was like, wow, I've wanted to make music like this for 15 years, and I'm actually able to make music like this. Like this is the music. When I was 10 years old, I was like, I want to be a rapper, and this is how I want my rap to sound. So hearing those songs was really awesome. But I mean, from each project, I think that song would vary, just because each project I was in a different mindset, different place. But I would say Absolutes, AOTV, and My Life are like my favorite tracks.
Okay. Sweet. Trying to think. I had something on my tongue and I lost it.
Oh, no problem.
Okay. Kind of production-wise or kind of cross-genre. Another thing I like to see people doing as well. Like Dylan Chase just released kind of like a worship CD.
Oh, okay.
You definitely have to check that out. It's a free project out there.
I'll check that out. Yeah, that's awesome.
Is there any other genre or artist from another genre that you'd like to collaborate with?
I mean, artists from another genre or genre, I would love to be able to do some worship stuff, like some really pulled back worship stuff. Like, I'm obviously not like a great singing vocalist, but I can do a little bit. I would love to be able to work with just a powerful vocalist and be able just to collaborate with them. As far as who is that could be, I really couldn't say. I do got some stuff coming up with a really great vocalist, a single coming up with a really great vocalist, so that's going to be cool. But I would love to be able to do some worship music, because I think there's some awesome worship music, like Hillsong United. I think has some incredible stuff. Just a lot of people have like really like Josh Garrels, I think, has some really awesome stuff. If I could work with like someone like him, I think that'd be really cool, just because he has such a unique vocal tone. And I think the way that he does his worship music, or like, now that we're getting in the season, the Christmas CD is really unique and it's really beautiful.
Nice.
But we'll see. We'll see.
Cool. Definitely look forward to that. A couple of people that just come to mind that you brought Hillsong up, like Hillsong, Young and Free. Of course, they had the great track.
Yeah.
You got Fearless Band has their own little Get in Dark, kind of like a hip hop duo based off of them. So I think worship and hip hop together, they mesh really well together. You got Chris Tomlin using hip hop a lot more. So I mean, people or worshipers or other artists are definitely recognizing that hip hop is a genre that you got all the youth that's kind of digging on the secular side, of course, and it is the music of the generation right now. So I like to see it involved in rock too. So I definitely like it to see branching out a little bit.
Yeah, man. If you know somebody, let them know. Let them know.
I'll see if I can link you up.
Please do, please do. Yeah. No, but no, I agree. I agree. It's hip hop is the voice of a generation, man. Like hip hop is probably the most powerful music, if not one of the most powerful music genres that's out right now. You see it everywhere. You see the footprint of it everywhere. It's really powerful.
Yeah. I think that's some good stuff for the interview. I'm going to go ahead and stop the broadcast. We can talk a little bit offline.